Hi everyone, this is a bonus video that you don't have to wait a month for. Up till now, I have made 3 videos that were all about Tales of. One was on the spin-off Tales of the World, and I liked it, but the video kinda sucked. Another one was on Tales of Graces, and I hated on it simply because I wanted to get famous off of trashing it, which was common at that time, and as a result, that video kinda sucked. And the last one on Tales of Xillia, where I pretended that there were people actually waiting for me to say it was a bad game. Those people didn't exist, and the video was kind of okay, but I'm glad I kept my ass clean while my head was so far up there. I love those videos all the same, and while I wasn't a Tales of fan, I've always been in pretty close proximity to one. Hell, he's the reason why I made those videos in the first place, and throughout all of these years, I've talked a sufficient amount of constructive shit about this series of games. And now the biggest game is about to come out, and damn it if I don't have something to say about it. Small disclaimer, of course, the game isn't out yet, so I won't make definitive statements about the game's quality or anything. Everything I talk about will be relating to this demo only and what I think it could mean for the future release. Not to mention that I ain't gonna try to use broad strokes. I will talk about literally anything that I deem worthy. So if that doesn't interest you, then don't worry, I got my usual content coming as usual. But now that that's out of the way, this is the demo for Tales of Arise. Tales of Arise is the most important game in the series to me based on the fact that the series has been coasting along with passable graphics, a boatload of Tales brand fan service, and generally banking on core fans to keep the game afloat. Tales of Arise from the moment it was revealed was shown to be going in a more action-y, stylish direction, and I started getting back on my cynical bullshit and made a few observations. This would be the Tales game that they used to slingshot the game into the more modern JRPG era of games, with the success of games like Persona 5 and Final Fantasy VII Remake being huge motivations for it in the way that they have pushed their series forward. In order to achieve this, they would revamp a bunch of factors to be more modern while trying to stay true to why the games are loved in the first place in a classic sense. The factor that seemed to get the most work done is the battle system, and it's pretty obvious that they care immensely about it since they released more combo videos than Desk does on Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Not to mention that seeing them take cues from action games such as Bayonetta and Nier Automata, that only made me think this even more. Overall, seeing the game go from getting barely any info to getting plenty of gameplay demonstrations and story told me basically all I needed to know about deciding to buy it. I appreciate the focus towards being more modern and action focused, and as far as I'm concerned, I was dummy excited to get this in my hands. This game, in a sweeping act of confidence, lets you choose who to start the game with by choosing from the full cast of 6 anime bitches. So I chose Kisara, the Leona that I wish League had, Dohalim, the man that makes all the girls drop their draws, Rinwell, the mage with daddy issues I swear I've seen on Casting Couch, and Xion, the Leon I wish Paladins had. Starting the game was an eye-opening experience for me because this looks so much better than Berseria. I almost didn't think this was possible for the series because, as I said earlier, they have been comfortable with the games only improving the graphics by a bit each time, but this time around this looks absolutely amazing to me. Truly exceeded my expectations, and I'm glad that they used this lush scenery to show off just how far they've come in crafting this world. Then the first dialogue scene happens, and from what I understand, this is how the real game will be as well. I can imagine this not being a good decision to most, but the thing that I don't understand is that the skits are fully voiced and they can be missed, versus these dialogues that you have to read and pertain to the situation at hand usually. Honestly, I'm indifferent, but even I know that Gruntilda doing this shit would have been a better alternative. Now the battle system is where I gotta start dying on a few hills, cause bitch, I have some opinions. I went in with Dohalim first, as if to roleplay my own sexual frustrations, and I have to say, this didn't feel how I thought it would. Let me explain. This dodge mechanic will never satisfy me, and that's just how it is. In every game that I've played with perfect dodge, be it the previously mentioned Bayonetta or Nier Automata, or basically any Platinum game like Transformers Devastation, they have all allowed you to clip animations to sneak in as much damage as you can before timing that perfect dodge. And this gave you so much freedom and allowed for that twitchy gameplay that I really like. Tales of Arise does the perfect dodge without allowing animation clipping, so you have to make sure that you aren't doing too much before you try to perfect dodge. It's clunkier now than it would have been otherwise, and I just feel like maybe I'm the problem, but I know that it's no coincidence that I loved all of the games with animation clipping. Don't worry, I also understand the flip side of this, where it makes you consider every move you use and plan accordingly around the enemy's windups and forces the player to analyze enemy attack patterns. It will always be a preference-based argument, but I know that games that allow animation clipping are usually praised for it, and for good reason. Whether it be canceling attacks or dodges, it allowed me to be immersed within the battle system, and my favorite game ever, Star Ocean 3, based an entire mechanic around it. That has to mean something, right? But with all of that being said, I think the battle system, when put against its own predecessors, really hits some highs on the right characters. They take the Break Souls mechanic from Berseria and changed it to where it's much easier to string combos together. Basic attacks make a return, instead of having a max amount of attacks that you can do in one Break Soul rotation. You lose Break Souls when you use arts, but not when you use basic attacks, so if you play your cards right, you can make this shit look like Devil May Cry. Healing has also changed up a bit, using a collective pool of points that you can restore your health with, instead of a traditional mana system. It's super new for Tales, and I'm very excited to really rip this one wide open when it releases. It has enough depth to where I can't wait to play with every character from start to finish. I almost never do that in other games, and this is a great step forward for the series. One thing that I didn't care too much for though was the amount of damage you dealt to enemies. I'm assuming that they changed how much health enemies had to account for the overall increased length of combos and emphasis on dodging to avoid damage, which in turn increases yours with the perfect dodge rewards that every character has. Except for Kisara, who just blocks and you can do perfect blocks, or as for the cultured out there, parries. In order to get the most out of your damage, you have to use your teammates' boost attacks, and this I don't mind, and it allows you to feel like your team is truly working together to eventually stagger their foes, and then when that happens you can use a super special move with pairs of team members doing really damaging attacks, which can one-shot enemies in most cases. Paired with the damage complaint is the stagger complaint. Bosses almost never stagger, feeling like they have perma super armor, and this was hard to get used to. I can kinda understand why in a way though. If you have the potential to do incredibly long combos, then if you staggered everything easily, then there would be no real reason to use the dodge on lower difficulties. So they allow bosses to cut through your attacks like the final Mugetsu. Do I personally like it? Not at all. But I also don't like condiments on my burgers, so who's really in the right here? It's still me, I think. Overall, I like the battle system, but I have some grievances with it, and I don't really think they'll change it in its current state, because the battles feel deliberate and like they're so proud of them. Doesn't mean anything in it is terabad, but it could feel a bit better, you know? The last thing I'll touch on is these skits, and I've seen some very divisive talk relating to these, so I'll add some more fuel to that fire. I've always wanted to see the skits as 3D cutscenes in Tales, because I get more immersed when the characters that are in my game are represented in the game's engine and not as 2D sprites. That may be weird to some, but that's just how I am. In a way, they did do this, but the toe on that monkey's finger curled to the point where it's digging into its fucking palm because... Grunty, I need your assistance. They look a bit amateurish, and I'm sorry if someone out there is offended by me saying this, but they just don't look as good as they could have looked with this unbeatable art style. I'm in no way trying to armchair develop this game, but these skits just show that this is still a Tales game. Yes, the models themselves aren't that bad, but these skits are just filled with bad angles and awkward expressions. I would have just preferred short cutscenes with movement and swaying character animations and something other than this. If they were gonna go full 3D models for skits, which is a first for the series, then do it big. Don't just go halfway to maintain that old Tales feel, cause to me it doesn't look amazing from both perspectives when done this way. I'm sure these won't change either, and honestly I don't really want them to, because that issue is subjective, but I would have wanted full 3D cutscenes if I had that timeline. Honestly though, as much shit as I talked and as much praise as I've given to this game's demo, none of my words really matter until the full thing comes out. That's why I didn't want to talk about things relating to the frame rate or anything like that, because while I did play it on PS4 Pro, I'm getting the actual game on PC, so any optimization issues I had, like the large amount of texture pop-in, frame drops, or longer load times, probably won't even be there. So I'll just say that if you're getting it on PS4, then I hope for the best for your overall performance. However, the game will be fine, the game will sell well, and it will be a fun time from start to finish, I'm damn sure of that. Oh yeah, and this game has fucking gambits from Final Fantasy XII. Like, is somebody gonna talk about that besides Globku? Like, literally, that is so cool. Like, yeah, it's not even like, it's not like 50 million options to choose from like in 12, but damn it, it's here. That game exists. They know it. I know it. Oh my god, that was great. Fuck what I said. This game is perfect. This game will be perfect if gambits are gonna be in that game. But whatever. Stay cute, you lovely.
Healing Halo.